Hi, this is Mike Lapitan, Product Specialist with Wonderware, California. Thanks for joining us for our Learning in 30 Historian Client webinar. In this 30-minute webinar, we'll do a quick introduction of who we are and then show you how to import InTouch tags into the Historian and how to quickly get started using Historian Client, which includes 3 tools: Trend for real-time and historical process analysis, Workbook for Excel reporting, and Query, which is used for point-and-click data mining. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, type them into the chat panel and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. Wonderware California is your local Wonderware resource. We provide certified training and technical support based here in California, as well as free hands-on getting started workshops at our San Francisco and Irvine offices. You can find our training and workshop schedule at california.wonderware.com, as well as more product tutorial videos on our YouTube channel. Wonderware California provides industry-leading application consulting based on over 25 years of automation experience. We also provide professional IT services to help you get your project started now with servers and computers pre-installed with Wonderware, as well as virtualized and high availability systems. And if you're looking for a resource to help you with a turnkey project or general programming assistance, we can introduce you to one of our 120 registered system integrator partners here in California. Wonderware was the first Windows-based HMI software on the market. An original Wonderware application from 1987 can seamlessly be upgraded to run on Windows 10. Used in 1/3 of the world's plants and with over 1 million licenses installed, Wonderware is the #1 HMI on the market. We're widely known for our ease of use and scalability, allowing you to get started quickly while providing a platform to grow with your business. And Wonderware is owned by Schneider Electric, a $26 billion company specializing in efficiency technologies, all which make Wonderware a proven low-risk investment with global support. The Wonderware Historian is the most widely used real-time plant database in the world. Historian empowers companies to easily analyze their process data to help them run their plants reliably, efficiently, and safely. Here is a basic illustration of the Wonderware Historian. The Historian collects data directly from your existing automation devices. OI servers are included so you can communicate with any PLC. The Historian is highly efficient at storing real-time data, and the Historian Client helps you retrieve the data to provide valuable insight into your process. The data can also be securely made available on your business network with a Tier 2 Historian or with Wonderware Online, our cloud-hosted Historian. Let's get started by importing InTouch tags into the Historian. Okay, here we are in Wonderware InTouch, and you can see we've got a reactor demo here with our reactor level, our reactor temperature, our batch number, a concentrate pump and valve. And so we're going to import these tags from our InTouch application into the Wonderware Historian. And we'll do that by opening up the System Management Console. And in our Historian tree, we'll right-click on Configuration Editor and click Import Tags. This will launch the wizard to import our InTouch tags. We'll go ahead and click Add, and we'll browse to our InTouch application, which is in this case called $React Demo, and we'll select the tagname.x file, and that's the file that has our InTouch tags. And we'll click Next. We'll bypass the uniqueness string. You can add a uniqueness string if you're going to be duplicating or importing duplicate tag names for multiple InTouch applications. And now we will just selectively import InTouch tags that in the InTouch application were marked for log data in the tag name dictionary. This allows us to selectively just import the InTouch tags that we want to log for historical purposes, not all of the tags in the InTouch application. Finally, you select the storage algorithm in which the data is stored, which the Delta storage is the default and good for most scenarios. The Historian's very efficient at storing data and compressing data, so Delta storage is recommended. So we'll go ahead and click Finish, and what we'll see is that 10 InTouch tags were selected, 58 were bypassed, and whenever we make a change to the Historian, we have to right-click in the configuration editor and click Commit Pending Changes. We can see the changes that we're making. We're inserting all of our InTouch tags that were marked for log data, and we'll click Commit. And that is the only step that we need to do to import InTouch tags. If we're using system platform, we don't need to go through this import process. You simply select the box in the Orchestra IDE to historize an attribute. If you're using InTouch Machine Edition, you can also add a trend sheet that will automatically create tags in the Wonderware Historian. You can also log data directly from a PLC or a third-party HMI or software application without InTouch. Let's go ahead and take a look at trend. Okay, now that we've imported our InTouch tags into the Historian, we'll go ahead and open up Trend, which is the first Historian client tool that we'll work with. When we log into Trend for the first time, we'll want to add our Historian server by going to the Tools menu and going to Servers. I can use localhost since the Historian's on the same computer. Otherwise, you'll want to enter the Historian name, which is the computer name that the Historian is on. And then you'll want to log in with an administrator user, either Windows or SQL. You can always use the SQL administrator account, which is the SA account, and then the SA password that you created when you installed Microsoft SQL Server, or after the fact, you can go into SQL Server Management Studio and change the password of the SA account. After you do that, you can click Update or Add, and then you will see the Historian server in italics before you're logged on. So I'll go ahead and click on, log on, and in plain text, that means that I'm logged on to the Historian server. Underneath the tag picker in the servers pane, if I click on my Historian server, I'll have my Historian tag list. So these are all the tags in my Wonderware Historian. And I can either go select them in alphabetical order, or I can use the filter pane here down the bottom. If you don't see the filter pane, you can always turn it on by right-clicking in the server pane and turn that filter on and off. So I know that I have a tag that starts with React, and so I'll go ahead and type in React into my filter pane. And I've got React level here, so I'll go ahead and double-click on that to add that to my trend. And on the top here, I'll enable live mode. And so that's going to put me into live trending. So here we are. I'm looking at a 5-minute window, and I can pick whatever start date and time that I want, and I can pick whatever duration I want. So maybe I'll look at a 10-minute window. You can see I just imported my InTouch tags and started logging data. So I can use this red value cursor here, and I can see right at 11:07 is where I started logging data, and I can actually also see then the value of that tag in the red up top. It's also displayed down here at the bottom where it says value at X1. So that's the value of the red cursor. I have a second cursor, and so you can see the time where the blue cursor is, and I can also see the value. You can see the value up top as well as down at the bottom here where it says value at X2. So if I were to drag this value cursor all the way to the right, since I'm in live mode, I can actually see the live value coming into the Historian. All right. Next, we can go ahead and, if we want, double-click on our tag here in the tag list. So React level is the tag, and I can see that I've got right now it's just set to a blue color. I could change the color if I desired. I could change the width or the style of it. I can change the retrieval by default. The retrieval is best fit. You can see that right here, that whatever retrieval mode that your tag is using, best fit is a way to optimize the performance of the retrieval of the data. So if you're looking at a long period of data, such as a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, it will speed up the data retrieval for the trend. We also have the ability to do a time offset, which allows us, if we wanted to, we could add this reactor level tag twice. And on one tag where we may be looking at real time, we might do a time offset on that second instance of React level so we could compare the same tag at 2 different points in time. Okay, if I wanted to look at these alarm limits here, these alarm limits came in from InTouch. Those are those horizontal lines. I can change the color of the trend when it goes above and below these alarm limits by going to Chart and going to Properties and selecting Limits. So I could have a limit excursion color that's different than my tag color. So I'll choose a pink color here for a high limit excursion. I'll choose an orange for a low limit excursion, and maybe I'll make the width of the line wider, and I'll make the style different just so it makes it very apparent to the operator that we are in some type of excursion of a limit. So that's an easy way to display your data when it's in alarm. We can also see the data log that makes up this trend simply by right-clicking in the trend and going to data log and looking at it in a wide format. Shows us the data that is displayed on the trend, and we can look at that data in between the start and end time of the trend or between the red and the blue cursor. We can also export that data as a CSV file by clicking Save As, and then we can import that data into Excel. Although we'll show you how to work with Excel using the Workbook Historian Client tool. Another capability we have in Trend is the ability to see statistics. Simply by right-clicking and going to Statistics, I can see the minimum, the time at minimum, the maximum, the time at maximum, and the average and standard deviation. And just like in data log, I can look at that between the start and end time of the trend or between the red and the blue cursor and export that as a CSV file. I'm going to go ahead and click Stop, and that pauses the trend. And if I mouse over any area in the trend, I can see the tag name, the value, and the timestamp. And if I right-click on it, I can add an annotation. So that becomes an electronic log in my historian. So I can say that I was doing a sensor calibration, and I'll make that a public note so anybody sees that. And that's really nice so that you can notify people or remind yourself of some type of anomaly that might have happened, and you always have that as a record now, and you can report off that in Excel also. I can also do rubber band scaling. So it allows me to zoom in on a particular area of my trend. So I'll click this button that says Enable Rubber Band Scaling, and then maybe I want to zoom in on this area where I had a note. And so I can just draw a box around here, and I can zoom in on that data. I'm going to go ahead and click Undo, go back to the normal view here, and I will disable rubber band scaling. I've also got the ability to an auto scale. So notice right now my default scale is 0 to 3000. I can click on this auto scale button, and then it will zoom the data. I'll zoom in on the data so that the data fits the chart. So you can see now the chart is -200 to 2100. And I can always go back to the default scale, the original scale as well. I'll go ahead and show you how to pan back in time now. Clicking this pan to the left allows me to, because I'm looking at a 10-minute window, I can go back in time. Every time I click this, it will go back 10 minutes. So as I'm pressing pan to the left, every time it's going back 10 minutes. And then I can always click this Enable Current Time Mode, and that takes me back to the current time. So that jumps, fast forwards me back to the current time. Say I were to go back in time, I can always speed back the playback as well. So instead of playing it back in real time, for example, I could speed it up 128 times. So you can see it right here that I'm moving very quickly now through my historical data, and soon I'll be back to the current time mode. All right, so next thing I'll do is I'll add a second tag. I've got my React level so far. I'll go ahead and add React Temp. So I'll double click on React Temp. And now I've got a second tag here, and now it's in red. I can see that down here in the tag list. And I can click this Stack the Tag Traces button if I want to go back and forth between having independent value accesses for each tag. So right now they're stacked. You can see whichever one is highlighted is the one that I show my alarm limits on. And I can use this check mark here to hide tags I don't want to see but not delete them. And I can go back and forth between these, having these stacked or overlaid depending on how I want to see the data. And so maybe I like this trend, I want to save it. I'll go ahead and click File and click Save As. And I created a folder on my desktop called Trends, and I'll go ahead and call this Trend 1 for simplicity's sake. And next thing I'll show you how to do is create folders to organize your data. So if I were to expand localhost, I've got two groups, public groups and private groups. Notice if I clear my filter here, I can organize or look at my tags by tag type, my analog tags, discrete tags. I can also do string tags if I've got some text I need to store. But public groups are visible by everybody. Private groups would just be visible by people in your group. Notice if I'm using System Platform, I have my whole model view exposed here. So if I've got a tanks area and I've got a piece of equipment, I can see just the tags that are relevant to my different areas and my pieces of equipment. So I'll create my own folders, and I'll do that under private groups here. So I'll right-click under private groups and click New Group, and I'll call this first one Reactor A. And I'll click back on my historian server so I can see my tags, and I'll add my reactor tags here that I was working with. I'll add those to my Reactor A group. So just drag these tags onto the folder, and then I'll go ahead and create a second group as well here, new group, and I'll just call this my Reactor B group, and I'll clear my filter, click back on my historian server, and I know that I've got some tags here that start with concentrate. Remember I had my concentrate pump. I'll go ahead and add my concentrate pump, and I'll also add my product level tag. So I've got a tag that starts with prod, and I'll go ahead and drag that onto my Reactor B group as well. So I've saved trend 1. I can go ahead and create a second trend by clicking on this new trend file button up here in the upper left hand corner, create a new trend. And now that I've got a folder here that's got 2 tags in it, pump and level, I can just drag the entire folder over to the trend. And now I'm comparing a discrete versus an analog. I might want to look at my level as my pump is turning on and off, my pressure as my valve is opening and closing, my speed as my motor is starting and stopping. And so I'll go ahead and save this as well as trend 2. Click save. Now that I've got a couple trends, I might want to look at them both at the same time. So I can come up here to Window and go to Tile horizontally. And this is really useful if maybe I've got a big screen TV in my control room and I want to look at multiple trends on the same TV. I might want to hide these tag lists here. I could either kind of minimize them down here like this, or I can come up here and I can hide my tag list. I could hide the tag picker, for example, so I get more of a full screen. Okay, and then I might want to full screen these trends here. Go back to Window, Tile horizontally. So that's a really nice way to display multiple trends at the same time on a single monitor. All right, so now that we've created some trends that we like and some folders and saved some files, we'll go ahead and show you how to embed Historian Client Trend inside of InTouch or HMI. So you can see I've got a blank window here called History, and I'm going to go into Window Maker. And the first thing I need to do is go to the Special menu and configure Wizard ActiveX installation. And what I can do here is install my His Client Trend Control ActiveX. So now it shows up under Installed ActiveX Controls. That'll be there as long as you've got Historian Client installed on your InTouch computer. Next we can do is open up our wizard, and there is our His Client Trend inside of our ActiveX controls. And I'll simply drop that object here onto my trend screen. And when I switch to runtime, I'll have the same trend client that I used previously now available inside of InTouch. So what I could do is I could go look at those folders I created, and I could add tags very easily and do the full control that I had previously now inside of InTouch. So it makes it for an out-of-the-box trend client tool. Now what I can do is automate this. So what I'll do is I'll add a script to my trend window here by going to Window Scripts, and I'll do an on-show script, and I'm going to insert an ActiveX script for my His Client Trend, and the method property I'm going to use is called Open File. So I'll go ahead and, or it's a file open rather, and so I'll insert that. And now all I need to do is insert the name of my trend file. And because remember I put that on my desktop here and called it trend 1, that's my path here, and I've already got that here saved in Notepad. So I can just copy and paste that trend file name into my script and add a semicolon at the end of that and validate it. And what I'll also do is copy that, and I'm going to add it to another button I've created here, just a simple InTouch button with an action script. And I will make it the same script, except I'm going to use trend 2 as the file name. And I'll validate that, click OK, and switch to runtime. And when that window opens, it will automatically run that script and open up that trend file. So you can see if I click on trend 2 to execute that script, I can open up that trend file. If I navigate away and then back, it opens up that default trend in my window script, and I can create menus and drop-down boxes to make it very easy for operators to select the trends they want to see. And that's how you work with the Historian client ActiveX, as well as there's a .NET control if you want to use this in an orchestra graphic. So that's using Historian client trend inside of InTouch. Next, let's take a look at the Excel add-in called Workbook. Next, let's take a look at the add-in to Excel called Workbook. Opening up Workbook is the same as opening up Excel. Because we had Excel installed when we installed Historian Client, we now have a Historian menu inside of Excel. And just like we connected to the Historian from Trend, we now are connected to the Historian from Excel. The first step is to go browse our tags and pick the tags we want to report off of. Notice the groups that we created inside of Trend are now available inside of Excel. So we'll start with our product level tag to report off of. We'll put that in cell A1, and we can then get live values, historical values, and aggregate values. We'll start with aggregate values. So this opens up a wizard. So we select this box here to pick the cell that has our tag name, and then we click Next. We click this box to pick the cell we want to put the data in. So we'll select cell B3 to put our data in, and then we click on this button here to go back to the wizard. Step 3 of 4 here. Now I can pick what calculation I want to do. I'll just start with an average calculation. And I can pick whatever start time and end time I want to do my aggregate value against. In this case, I'll just look at the last 10 minutes and click Finish. So you can see how simple it is to get started pulling data out of the Historian into Excel. Let's do something a little bit more useful here. Let's do a history values query. So we have the same type of wizard here. We'll use the same cell A1 for our tag. We'll put the data in cell B6. And the retrieval tab lets us retrieve the data lots of different ways. So the cyclic retrieval mode allows us to specify the number of values we want to retrieve, or the time that the data is spaced by. So in this case, we'll say we want the data to be spaced evenly every 1 minute. And we will say we want to look at the data for the last 30 minutes, starting from today at 4:00 p.m. and click Finish. So you can see how easy that was to get 1 minute data. Notice we have all these columns that we may not want. We don't necessarily want to know what the quality was or the retrieval mode. So we can go ahead and click Edit Function, and that'll take us back through the wizard. And I can take out that retrieval mode column, come to Format, and choose a wide table instead of a narrow table. And that will just give me the simple 2 columns with the time and the value that I'm probably looking for here. So again, very easy to get started pulling data into Excel. Let's do something a little bit more advanced now and show you the other retrieval modes. So other retrieval modes besides cyclic, there's delta, which is show me every time the value changed, show me the full data set, average, min, max. I can interpolate data. I can do totalized flows if I have got a rate that I'm capturing, such as gallons per minute or kW per hour. I can do a counter if I'm counting things at the end of my packaging line. Maybe I have a rollover associated with my counter. I can do uptime, downtime reporting, so I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. So let me go ahead and just do I'll do a delta retrieval, show me every time the value changed, and I'll apply some criteria against that. So I'll say, only want to see the data when my batch number, remember from my reactor demo, equals 100. And I'll look at that from the last 5 hours from today. And click Finish. And now you can see the timestamp began at 12:18 p.m. and went all the way to 12:19 p.m. And so if I were to open up trend at that time, I can see here, there's my batch tags. My batch is changing. And if I bring my blue cursor over here, I can see at that time, my batch was 100. And I could put the cursor at the end of batch 100 and the beginning of batch 100. And so I could see the start time and end time of that batch. And that matches right up. At 12:18 was the start time, 12:19 was the end time. And then here's the level data during that batch. So I can kind of verify and just see that I can see the same information in a different way in Trend and in Excel. Okay. Next, let's do an uptime downtime report. And so there's pre-built reports in tag analysis here. And we'll do a discrete tag analysis report. And we will go ahead and pick one of our discrete tags from our reactor demo, concentrate pump. And let's go ahead and do it for 4 hours, starting at 12 o'clock. Click Next, and we'll get a trend, some statistics, and a graph. And so here we have a pie graph that shows the total time our pump was running and the total time our pump was stopped. We have a line chart to see as that pump was starting and stopping. We can see the timestamps of when that pump started and stopped. And we can see the total time the pump was stopped, the total time it was running, the percent time it was off, the percent time it was on, and the number of transitions it turned off and on. So that's an out-of-the-box report that can be very useful for maintenance as well as packaging line production performance reporting. So that is the basics of the Historian client add-in to Excel. The other Historian client tool is called Query. And Query can be launched as a standalone tool without Excel. And similar to what we just did inside of Excel, it allows us to go browse for our tags and retrieve data, and allows us to do data mining. So we can see the data in our Historian, and we can also see the structured query language that is being written behind the scenes to retrieve our data. Right now we're in a narrow retrieval format. That's useful. It lets us see other additional columns such as quality details, so we can see that I've got good quality data. Now that I've got good quality data, again, I may only need a wide format, so I can switch to wide and just get my time column and my value column, and I can filter out this Wonderware resolution column. And again, I can pick whatever start time I want, duration, the retrieval modes, the criteria. And so this lets me do data mining and see on the fly what the data looks like inside of my Historian. Now, I can also launch Query directly from within Excel. So I'll go ahead and click Direct Query from within Excel, and it launches Query so that I can take the results of my query and then I can put that data directly inside of Excel. So what I'll start with is I'll do an analog statistic query type. And this is a new query type that allows me to quickly get some statistics out of my Historian. And I'll show you an example here. So I'll start on the Retrieval tab. I'll say that I want to get data every 15 minutes. And do 15-minute summary information over the last, we'll say, 4 hours, starting at 12 o'clock. And now I can pick the columns which I want. I can pick the start time. Maybe I don't care about OPC quality, but I want to know what the first value is. I want to know what the minimum was, the time at minimum, the maximum, the time at maximum, the average, the standard deviation, and the totalized flow. So here I have a pre-built report that shows me every 15 minutes what the first value was, the min, the max, the time at min, the time at max, the average, the standard deviation, and the totalized flow. So if this is what I need for my daily report, for example, I can click OK, and I can just put this into a blank cell inside of Excel, and now I've got my daily statistic report showing my 15-minute data. 15-minute data. This could be for hourly data. This could be for daily data, but very easy to start getting statistical data inside of Excel here. Now that we've reviewed the basics of historian client, that includes trend, workbook, and query, let's take a look at licensing. There are 4 different types of historian client licenses. A per-device license just gets installed locally on the historian client machine, but does not support remote desktop. If you need support for remote desktop, then you'll use a per-named device, a per-named user, or a concurrent license. A named device specifies the computer that's doing the remote desktop. The named user specifies the Windows user that is doing the remote desktop. And the concurrent is the most flexible. It is a first come, first serve license. So if you have 5 concurrent licenses, then any 5 people from any location can access historian client at the same time. Any combination or number of historian client licenses can be used at the same time. That concludes our Learning in 30 historian client webinar. We'll now open up the chat for any questions. Kelly, do we have any questions?